Today we're going to be looking at Land Before Time. I'm so sorry about the way that I sound. I got bit by a bug, the same mutated bug that everybody else is getting bit by. Ironically, going to a movie about a guy who also gets bitten by a mutated bug. Irony at its best. Anyways, here we go. A narrator tells us about a story of these beings that existed a long time ago, the dinosaurs. Some of these dinosaurs were plant-eating dinosaurs who had to use a lot of their energy to chew leaves, while others were meat-eaters. And unfortunately, all the plants were dying out, which means that the plant-eating dinosaurs didn't have enough food, so they had to migrate to places where there was food. The meat-eaters, of course, had to follow. I just realized that they used this very same clip of this dinosaur eating and doing this at the very end of the movie, and I just caught that, and this is the 50th time of me watching it. Look, it's the same scene. Also, I didn't realize that this film was from 1988, which explains why it looks this way. But on the modern copies, if you look closely, it seems as though the action is usually on the foreground. At least it was in the Amazon version that I watched. This specific copy is very noisy. This dinosaur, as we'll see later, is actually called the Saurolophus. Anyway, with the journey being perilous and very long, the herbivores only stop to hatch their eggs. This is where we meet Ducky. I'm sorry, but I refuse to believe that Ducky is the firstborn out of the group. They probably all hatched at the same time, but it just seems to me that she'd be the youngest. Can you imagine if she had gotten beheaded as soon as she was born? Somewhere in a parallel universe, Ducky stuck her head in that snapper's face and never made it back out. Later we meet the intrepid Sarah, who was born fearless. Something I found really interesting. We then go to the scene where we meet Littlefoot. Seeing all of the dinosaurs born, hatching from their eggs, makes them more relatable. And what I never noticed before the first time seeing this is that there were other cracked eggs around the nesting site that probably were Littlefoot's siblings. But he was the last remaining one. They even say so in the story.
One herd had only a single baby, their last hope for the future.
That is how Littlefoot ended up being an only child. He just happened to be the last survivor out of the clutch. The first thing Littlefoot sees is his mom. On the left, his grandfather, who I nicknamed Gourmet, and on the right, his grandmother, who I nicknamed Migor. I think I named his mom Diana or Donna or something like that, I can't remember. But they also mentioned that these individuals, Diana and her parents, are the last members remaining of their herd. All the surrounding creatures are interested in Littlefoot. That one's a little bit too much interested. I would not let him near any of the babies because he could easily fly off with Littlefoot and eat him. Realizing that Littlefoot's had enough, the mother picks him up. And I really enjoy how they do perspective in this movie. They do it a lot. She puts Littlefoot to fall asleep in her neck fat. Such a strange place to sleep, in the back of your mother's freaking neck fat.
You be careful, my little foot.
As time goes on, Littlefoot grows up into an adolescent. His mother leads what's left of his herd. There is not much to eat, but she shows him a tree star that will help him grow big and strong. They're going to a place called the Great Valley where there are many of these leaves. Littlefoot loves the tree star. His mother tells him that where they're going, there will be more water than they can ever drink, more food than they can ever eat, and that it's basically a paradise. Littlefoot asks his mother how she knows. He asks his mom, "Mom,
have you ever seen the Great Valley?" No. Well, how do you know it's really there?
Yeah, Mom, how do you know? She then tells them what every spiritual parent probably tells their child. Some things you see with your eyes, others you see with your heart. Not long after this, Littlefoot meets Sarah while hearing her playing. After he laughs at her, she challenges him to a duel. While they're getting ready to charge, unfortunately, Sarah's father and mother hears. I'm sorry, with this scene right here, I used to play it over and over again because Sarah's dad is a badass. In my universe, his name is Mario Tops, and he used to be a staunch racist, which is definitely the tone of this movie. Don Bluth also did a very good job of capturing the intimidating nature of a Triceratops.
Come, Sarah. Three horns never play with long necks.
Littlefoot.
See what I mean? That growling? It's freaking intimidating. Can you imagine if you come face to face with that? Look at Littlefoot's poor face.
Holy shit.
Baby Sarah parrots exactly what her father says, and that they never play with each other because they're different. Understandably, Littlefoot's confused by this and asks his mother why is that the case. His mother just answers saying it's always been that way. We keep to our own kind. And when they get to the Great Valley, there will be lots of other longnecks for him to play with. Where the sun sets is where they're going. That night, they all sleep in the weirdest way. They're not exactly lying down, they're all just leaning on stuff, which is weird. Is this how sauropods actually sleep? I don't know. While Littlefoot's sleeping, he's awoken and scared out of his sleep by a frog. He follows what he calls a hopper, only to be met by the three-horned Sarah, who tells him to go away. It's her hopper. However, they both end up playing in the same pond, putting their differences aside for that moment, and just having fun. A shadow soon looms over them. They recognize it to be a Sharptooth. Hearing the cries for help, Littlefoot's mother comes to save the day. She bravely fights off the Sharptooth, and she doesn't just save Littlefoot, but the little three-horn. She's mortally injured during the fight. I really do respect how they show injury and blood in this. They never do it after this movie. It is so graphic and accurate that you can actually see Littlefoot's mother's skin hanging off from where the Sharptooth ripped a chunk out of it. That's raw and realistic. During all of this, there's a great earthshake. The continents are being formed or moving or what have you. As a result of this, the T-Rex falls into the underground while Littlefoot's mother rescues him and Sarah. Again, we can see how injured she is. She pulls both of them up, and just coming out of one situation, they end up in a completely different one. Sarah runs to call for her mother and father. I love that sound that Sarah makes. She always makes that sound before she charges. I don't think she ever makes that noise again in the other movies. That was like her signature, like, banshee cry. I don't know how they made that sound, but that was a sound that was Sarah's call. And then they just did away with it. As we can see this Gallimimus running for its life, we also see in the background Littlefoot's grandparents, totally confused as to what's happening. It's also interesting seeing dinosaurs coming after each other. Just look at this scene. These sauropods right here, as well as these dinosaurs, are trying to get to their families on the other side. Then take a look at what happens. And that's why I really respect this movie, because it shows dark elements that a lot of other cartoon or animated movies for some reason choose not to.
Quake split the land. Herds were divided. Families were cut in two. Littlefoot was separated from his grandparents.
Those dinosaurs are dead. It sucked. They were trying to get to their family on the other side, and they realized they couldn't. They tried running back, and they died. Respect for showing that. I remember the first time I saw this movie, I was a baby. Like, I was really, really little. People claim you can't understand or remember certain things when you're a child or that young. I did, and it's actually not that uncommon. I didn't remember or understand what was happening at the time with the earthshake, but I did somehow make the connection that those dinosaurs that fell were never getting back up. Sarah, like so many, was on the left side of the divide with her family on the other. After all of this, Littlefoot looks for his mother, who had been mortally injured in the fight and probably done in with all the earth shaking. This has become one of the saddest animated movie deaths and the saddest scene in the movie. Littlefoot sits there as his mother is asking him to remember the way to the Great Valley. He asks her sadly, "Why do I have to know if you're going to be with me?" She said that she'll always be with him, even if he can't see her. She knows at this moment that she's going to die.
What do you mean if I can't see you? I can always see you.
She uses her last dying breath to remind him how to survive. Calls out to her after she's gone quiet, probably hearing her not breathing anymore. Unfortunately, Littlefoot's mother no longer responds. For many days after, Littlefoot deals with depression after losing his mom. He meets an old geezer who realizes he's crying because he's lost his mother, who gives him wise advice, also parroting what his mother said about her always being there. He tells Littlefoot that your mother will be a part of you always, especially if you remember the things that she taught you. I love how they are able to show someone going through loss. A lot of cartoons today don't do that, and it's very annoying. I don't know why that happens, but it's wonderful to see Littlefoot actually crying and missing his mom. It shows him depressed and not wanting to eat. It shows him forgetting his purpose altogether. It shows him going into her footprints and just missing her. In his mind, he can hear her voice. he sees a tree star fall. And it kind of made me mad that the water collected and he didn't drink the water, but whatever. He is so sad that that's the last thing he's thinking of. And because the symbol of the tree star has sentimental value to him, he takes it with him. After mistaking his own shadow for his mom and being so happy, probably hallucinating from hunger thinking it was her, when he tasted its rock and realizes his mom is actually gone, he comes to terms that he's actually alone and his mom is not coming back. Littlefoot meets Sarah. He makes a suggestion that they should travel together and help each other. However, Sarah is so proud that she insists on taking care of herself. Her racist tendencies show through after her father has taught her that she never is supposed to associate with other members that are not her kind. And we see how in this fashion it actually works against the good of her survival. Had her father taught her that she should respect other species that are different or that look different and never put yourself above others, in this situation where his daughter's completely alone, she would have gotten the help from other species and not been so proud and racist. To think that even in a situation like this, she shouldn't even ask for help or pair up with someone to help her survival rates increase.
Sarah, you can't climb up here. You can't.
This rejection makes Littlefoot more sad and lonely, and this is where he meets Ducky. She tries talking to him, and he says that, don't you know that our kind is not supposed to talk to each other? Then Ducky, in Ducky fashion, tries to let him know that she's also a longneck, which she fails miserably to convince him of. Despite Littlefoot knowing his creed, he can't help it. He laughs, and he and Ducky become friends. They decide to travel together, and being hungry, they try eating a dry leaf, and this is where they meet Petrie. He also lost his family, and the reason why he couldn't catch up to them is because, well, he can't fly. Meanwhile, Sarah is in the underground and sees the dead shark tooth. Realizing it's dead, she gets brave and charges it. Turns out the shark tooth is alive. How? I have no idea. One thing I absolutely love about this movie that I don't see the others focus on as much is the ambience, the prehistoric ambience. I start hearing some noises through this, and I'm wondering to myself, what the frick are those noises? It so matches up with the background and the characters and makes you feel like you're there. Just listen to the ambience for a second. You hear those noises in the background? It's freaking awesome. Makes you feel like you're actually there. I also respect how they made the Dimetrodon sound like a regular dinosaur, and he didn't talk like so many of the others did. And here are one of the scenes that I was talking about that looks as though they put a cutout of a drawing on a top layer of some other film, which is probably how they used to do things back then. But it's so obvious in this copy. You can see the cutout of Petrie's wings, the outlines of Ducky and Littlefoot, and it kind of reminds me of art animation that I used to do, where I used to draw things and color them and laminate them and then cut them out. And then I would take pictures out of magazines or books or even pictures on the internet, print them out, and put my drawings that were cut out on top of them to make it look like they were actually inside of that background. You don't realize it until you watch it on high def. My parents had a bubble TV. I call them bubble TVs because they're the old TVs that look like they have bubble screens. And they had one in the family for a long time. Those things apparently never die. And we had flat screens, but that one bubble TV was an ancient piece of technology that we kept specifically for watching VHSs. They're like huge versions of cassettes, which are very inefficient versions of CDs, which they just take up a lot of space. But anyway, when you're watching movies like this from the 80s or 70s, you don't see all these cutout stuff. I think because the screens or the pictures are so blurry, it kind of melds in with everything. But here, it looks like they're two-dimensional objects that don't belong to the environment, and I just noticed that. While Littlefoot is trying to get Petrie to fly, being annoyed of Petrie riding on his head the whole time, calling him flathead and just being annoying, they end up colliding into a skeleton. While they're freaking out and running from the skeleton, kind of reminds me of those videos with the cats that get caught in the bags. God. Sarah is running towards them, and as they stop, she's even more scared as she sees a skeleton lying at her face. I can't laugh my throat. Why? For some reason, this angle is just so freaking weird. Like, and you can make this a completely different movie. Like, she's giving birth, and everyone's like, Sarah, it's okay. Push! It just looks so inappropriate. Anyway, they ask Sarah why she looks so frightened. She claims that she's not frightened. 'Cause, you know, three horns never get frightened. Newsflash, yes they do. She says she saw a sharp tooth. Littlefoot doesn't believe her, but she starts telling a story to make herself look good. And while Ducky is all roped in, looking intently at Sarah, wondering what she's gonna say next, Sarah does a crazy jump scare and launches Ducky to the other side of wherever it is they are. There, Ducky meets Spike. She helps him to hatch, and all he does is eat. Spike becomes her new baby brother. It took me so much time to realize that Spike tail actually meant like Stegosaurus. I always thought that the tip of his tail was spiky when I was really little, and then apparently when he grew up, it was gonna be like a needle at the end of it, like the very tip, like a wasp. I used to collect my dinosaurs, and before even knowing that Spike was a Stegosaurus, the only dinosaur that I could use to play his part was a Stegosaurus because it looked most like Spike, having those plates on his back. Come to find out that he's actually a freaking Stegosaurus. I'm so stupid. Now there are 5 friends. A long neck, a spiked tail, a 3-horned swimmer, or a big mouth. They keep on alternating the names of these creatures. And Littlefoot's apparently a flat head as well, which to me, his head doesn't look that flat. If anything, Ducky's head looks more flat. So knowing that dinosaurs usually stick to their own kind, these guys are making history in their part of the world, traveling together to get to their families. They're all following Littlefoot because he knows the way to the Great Valley based on what his mother said. At least his mother had the foresight to tell him. And even though Sarah insulted Littlefoot by saying that her father told her that flatheads had very small brains, which doesn't make sense because Sarah wasn't there at the time Petrie called him a flathead, and she's always referred to Littlefoot as a long neck, so why would she then be calling him flathead after she meets up with a group while Littlefoot is with dinosaurs she's never met before who call him flathead? That part was inconsistent. Anyway, her father had told her that flatheads had very small brains, just to insult his character, because he didn't believe her about the sharp tooth. Littlefoot has his own issues. While he expects everyone to believe him that there's this Great Valley that they've never seen, he thinks it's stupid to believe Sarah that the sharp tooth is still alive, even though she herself has seen it. Sarah also is very proud and plays around a lot, so I don't blame him for not believing her. I just find it odd that he needs proof of the sharp tooth when he doesn't have proof of the Great Valley. Sarah claims she found the Great Valley, and I just love their interaction here because they feel like actual babies. Unfortunately, this little Great Valley is not actually the Great Valley, and a bunch of sauropods who are obviously starving charge ahead of Littlefoot and his friends and eat most of the plants. There's basically nothing left of the trees, but Littlefoot tells the group that they should go down there to see if there's anything left. They find one tree, probably too small for the sauropods to have seen. Littlefoot stands on Spike, Ducky stands on his head, and pushes up Petrie, who's afraid of heights. Poor Petrie is terrified, but does what he can for the group. Meanwhile, Sarah is laughing her ass off, instead of actually helping. Petrie starts scratching at the leaves, and Spike starts eating. There's not that many leaves on the ground, but apparently, when Ducky is hanging on to Petrie, and we look from up on the tree, there's this huge-ass pile down below, which makes no sense. Honestly, a better plan would have been to throw Petrie up there, launch him using Littlefoot's head till he catches a branch up there, and then while he's hanging onto the branches, he scratches all the leaves down below. And then Littlefoot and the others will catch him.
Fly, Petrie! Fly, Petrie! Flap your wings!
See, he wouldn't have hurt himself. But they're kids, so they know no better. Sarah's so full of herself and probably embarrassed that they were able to get themselves food and she didn't help, so she has no right to come in and ask. Something I can respect Sarah for is that she doesn't mooch off the others. She claims she can get her food herself, not realizing that Littlefoot actually gave her food. She brags and says, see, I can take care of myself. She claims that the sharp tooth's out there and it might eat them. While she sleeps on her little area alone, Littlefoot sleeps in one of the footprints of the sauropods, while the rest of his friends go to sleep with Sarah, knowing that she is the bravest and she's not afraid of anything. Poor Littlefoot feels saddened by this, but continues to sleep by himself. I like that there's an obvious struggle of leadership between Sarah and Littlefoot. The both of them are needed for their respective personalities. Littlefoot is compassionate, but also very encouraging, and knows how to keep people focused and optimistic. Sarah is a realist, and her pessimism balances out Littlefoot's optimism. She keeps him grounded, and he gives her hope. I can tell by Littlefoot lying here, trying to keep warm, that he's probably thinking about his mother. Ducky, unable to sleep, with everyone snoring, she gets up and sits beside Littlefoot. The others soon join. Old Heavy Spike joins in as well. Sarah is left cold and alone. Realizing that the others left without her, in this moment while she's tired, she puts her pride aside and snuggles up to the others. This is the sweetest thing ever. In the morning, Sarah hears something. It's the sharp tooth. He's awake and on the surface. Sarah could have run off at any point, but she didn't. She tries to wake up Littlefoot first, telling him that the Sharptooth is here. Littlefoot just keeps telling her to stop. He's tired and he doesn't want to hear any nonsense. Meanwhile, Sarah is freaking out. It's infuriating because he's not listening, and she's trying to tell him that the Sharptooth is right there. If he'd only wake up a little bit more, he could actually hear the thing bearing down on him.
Sarah, stop it! He'll eat us! He'll eat us! Run! Come back!
That happened to have been his Sharptooth footprint they were sleeping in. They did not even realize that the first time around. Gotta respect Sarah. She was trying to shush Littlefoot. She was trying to wake everyone up quietly, and he's the one who was being loud, and he almost got them killed. After she realized, okay, these people are not listening to me, she warns them by screaming loudly because Littlefoot already gave away their position, and she jumps on Spike's stomach while also telling them to run. She's like, sucks to be y'all. I tried. She leaps out of there, and that's when the others see that the Sharptooth is right above them. Newsflash. If someone is losing their shit and running, follow them. It might be a prank, but the one day that you don't believe them might be your last. They follow Sarah through a narrow opening, almost dying in the process. Luckily, they make it out alive.
Now will you believe me? Sorry, we're safe now. Nobody's safe with you.
I can kind of understand where she's coming from with that. Sarah is the one that woke up first. Sarah is the one that tried to get them up to run. She tried everything in her power to protect the group and only ditched when they were not listening. Littlefoot may be a great leader, but Sarah's definitely a great protector. Then they realize they're right beside the rock that looks like a long neck, just like his mother said. They're going the right way, the way to the Great Valley. Littlefoot's way seems too hard. He's trying to follow his mom's instructions to a T, believing wholeheartedly what his mother has said. She claims that there's an easier way. Ducky, Spike, and Petrie are wondering who to follow. Littlefoot tells her it's the wrong way. Sarah becomes stubborn.
But it's the wrong way! Who says? My mother! Then she was the stupid long neck too. Take it back! No!
You don't insult a man's mother. You never do that. That's the only time we've seen Littlefoot instigate a physical fight. Also consider how he lost his mother. She was defending both of them. After they get into a bad fight, Sarah rips Littlefoot's ass up. Sarah is a better fighter, and it just hurts Littlefoot's pride, and he must be so frustrated because not only is he trying to protect the group, but he's hanging on to the last word his mother said him that he knows to be sure. The others decide to go with Sarah, claiming that her way is easier. Littlefoot's mother said to go past the mountains that burn, but Sarah finds herself in a tar pit. As she leaps towards the other side, Petrie loses his grip and falls in the tar pit. Sarah doesn't hear him as he calls out for help. Littlefoot, being the friend that he is, comes back for his friends. He probably wanted to continue, but didn't want to leave his friends in danger. He couldn't leave them behind. It's a good thing he'd come back, because he comes back Ducky in the middle of a lava flow, calling out for Sarah, asking where she is, but she's already gone ahead of all of them. As assertive as Sarah is, she never considered to look back to make sure her friends were following. She left them in danger. Littlefoot first helps Ducky and Spike. Then they all try to help Petrie. Littlefoot actively put himself in danger to help his friends. In the meantime, Sarah finds herself between a rock and a hard place, namely the Pachycephalosaurus' skulls, if that's what they are. While she thinks she's about to get eaten, an alien creature scares them away. The alien creature picks her up, and she screams bloody murder, only to find out it's her friends having a gag. Her pride is insulted, further, when she slips in the tar, and then when she smashes her head into a rock. Feeling sorry, they tell her to come back, but she's so proud that she doesn't want to admit that she was wrong, and she cries. Probably also stressed out from everything that's happened so far. This is the first time we see Sarah cry, and the first time we see her pride shattered like this. The others play in the water, while Sarah is God knows where, probably having gone without them. They see the Sharptooth. Littlefoot and the friends come up with a plan to get rid of him once and for all, using Ducky as bait. She screams, and the Sharptooth gives chase. It chases her right into the water. Littlefoot is counting on the fact that it can't swim, even though it's possible that T-Rex could swim. Petrie whistles for Littlefoot and Spike to push the boulder below to hit the T-Rex so he can fall into the deep end and drown. When the T-Rex collides into the rock that Petrie is on, Petrie starts falling and then discovers he can fly. Bravely, knowing he can fly now, he saves Ducky. The T-Rex jumps up out of the water while Spike and Littlefoot are trying their hardest to push it off the edge. Sarah comes back to help her friends, while Petrie is drowned with the sharp tooth. The rock falls into the belly of the Rex and drowns it, once and for all. Everyone's sad since they've lost Petrie, especially Ducky. But it's okay because Petrie's alive, because of course he is. Littlefoot sees a cloud form in the sky. It has the voice of his mom. He says that he tried to find the Great Valley, but it's too hard. The cloud forms and blows away. Thinking it's his mother, he screams at her not to go. As she forms over a cliff face, the most beautiful scene happens as the part where her heart opens into a sun ray and then expands to show the Great Valley. The music swells as Littlefoot calls over his friends. Sarah humbly tells Littlefoot that he found it, and like a true leader, Littlefoot says that they found it together. All their families are waiting there.
Daddy!
Sarah?
What I find so heartwarming is after Sarah goes to meet her dad and she's reunited with her family, you hear what sounds like Sarah's dad laughing in the background, or just laughter in general, as families are now reunited. Littlefoot is reunited with his grandparents. I wonder if they know if Diana, their daughter, is dead, or Dawn, or whatever it is I called her. That would be a depressing conversation. They probably already thought Little Slit was already dead. Littlefoot. The most touching part of the story is when Sarah calls over Littlefoot to play, as Littlefoot is having his memories of growing up and being with his mom, and how he met Sarah and the others, and they all have a group hug, and nobody any longer has any issues with the kids playing together because of everything that they went through together as one. Sarah probably told her dad that Littlefoot was the one who brought her there. It's so weird how tragedy helps people forget their prejudices, even though in the later Land Before Time movies, you do see a little bit of that prejudice still showing. Don Bluth is a legend. This will always be my favorite animated dinosaur film. Everything from the act to the drama to the emotion is unforgettable. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.